What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Travis Ballinghoff. Here with me tonight, we got Mr. High and Wide himself, James Iacovone. James, how we doing tonight?
So two things. Doing great. I noticed that you said y'all in the beginning. You didn't think I would catch that. Number two, you called me James. Nice. Dude, doing pretty good. It was chaos today on Flyers Twitter. And while I somewhat try to stay out of the chaos, I do enjoy watching chaos. So today was a day. How are you doing?
Not too bad. I guess it's been a pretty crazy 24 hours. I was sitting at home last night just watching TV, and then I see a Kevin Weeks video pop up on my phone, and I don't want torts, but like I actually got like a big smile on my face. I was like, "Oh shit, here we go. We're actually gonna do it."
Yeah. Because it's like a couple things. First and foremost, there should be direction, right? Like we should start to see where they want to go with things. Actually, well, I'll ask you afterwards. And then the other part for me was John Tortorella is going to coach the Flyers. I love this guy, right? Not because I don't want to get into X's and O's kind of thing, or what his style is on the ice and this and that. I just like the guy. I like the personality. You watched him on TV a lot this year. I think you got to see a little bit of who he is as a person. Because all we've heard before is he's this kind of coach and he's a jerk and players don't like him. It's just not true, right?
Hmm.
Like for every one player that doesn't like him, 5 or 6 have nice things to say about him. But for whatever reason, people want to hang on to the players that don't like him. I'm excited for him. I enjoyed watching him in New York. I enjoyed watching him in Columbus. He gave me a reason to watch Columbus games, right? Like nobody really cares about the Blue Jackets, but if John Tortorella's coaching that team, I want to watch him. And he had those guys playing really well, right? I think there was a Zach Werenski quote.
Yep.
I don't remember exactly what it said. Um, but John Tortorella helped make Zach Werenski the player that he is today. There's a lasting effect, right? I think Werenski maybe had one of his best seasons, even though Torts wasn't there, right? He helped shape him into the player that he is today. Like, imagine if Provorov had a coach like Tortorella the last couple seasons, where he would be today, instead of Hackstall, instead of Scott Gordon, even though he was a good guy, or Alain Vigneault. Imagine if he had a coach that actually coached him up, that ripped the best player out of him, right?
Hmm.
So I'm intrigued by that because I appreciate that kind of coaching style. Growing up, playing various sports, whatever, I appreciated honesty. I appreciated the bluntness. A guy telling you, "Hey, I did something wrong. Tell me what I did wrong and tell me how to fix it,
Hmm.
and let's go from here." I would rather have that. So, what did you think? What do you think overall of the hiring?
So I don't love it. I really torts. So like you said, you always liked him in New York and Columbus. I always hated him
Interesting.
because kind of like you talk about someone like Marshawn or Tom Wilson. Like you hate going against them, but you love when they're on your team. Like that's how I feel about Torts. It's like, oh my god, he's bitching again. He's pointing fingers again. Like that always just annoyed me because he wasn't ours, right? So now we have him. Like you said, he has this weird rap from the public eyes when talking about, oh, Cam Atkinson doesn't like him. Werenski doesn't like him. So Scott Hartnell was on Nasty Knuckles a long time ago, and he was talking about Torts, and he said they got off on the wrong foot at first. He ended up healthy scratching Hartnell,
Mhm.
and then he ended up playing fourth line, but like he was one of the top scorers on the team. And that year, Werenski was a rookie, and he had like 3 bad turnovers in like the last 3 minutes of the game, or in a game, 3 bad turnovers in like the last 10 minutes. So they benched him for the rest of the game. And Hartnell said Werenski took that he took that in stride, and that really helped him gain his traction his rookie year. And like I like hearing stuff like that. Like, oh, he doesn't work well with the young guys. He doesn't work well with the skill guys. Like Cam Atkinson scored 40 goals under Torts. Like
Yeah.
I don't really think it's as bad as people are making it seem. Like All right, I hated the comments he made about Z versus Michigan. Like, dude, if you can score that way, like, do it. Like, score any way that's legal. Um, I see people say maybe the league's passed him. Maybe I don't know about that. He hasn't had much playoff success. But you look at them Columbus teams, like I don't think the Columbus teams were as bad as a lot of people think. I think they were a bubble team and they had bubble results in the playoffs. Like maybe if they had a lot more talent, maybe they go farther and more depth.
Hmm?
I don't know. He was far from my first choice. I really wanted Trotz. Supposedly he bought a house in Nashville. Did you see that?
No.
Bought a house in Nashville within the last 2 days.
Oh, so there you go. He's gonna go up in the management,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like he's I mean that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know,
I,
go ahead.
I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Like, I guess how we got here. So I guess like the things that have been going around the hockey world the last couple of days is that Trotz was deciding between Winnipeg, Vegas, and Philly. And then Vegas ends up hiring Cassidy. And I actually thought during the day, I was in my car when I saw that. I said, I guarantee Trotz told teams where he's going to go. And we're either going to find out today if we get him or not. And I don't know if he's going to Winnipeg or not, but we're not getting him. It is kind of funny how it worked out that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you want to talk about how we hired Torts. I mean, you had that report a couple months ago about the whole front office wanting John Tortorella except for Chuck.
How crazy is that?
And then a couple months later, they don't trust Chuck enough to make the hire, so they hire this law firm consultant to, I guess, overrule him. That's how I took it. It was funny because I was on your show last week, and I had this weird feeling that this wasn't going to be Chuck's decision, whoever the coach was. I just had that weird feeling in mind, and it's wild that it actually is the case.
Yeah. So there's a lot. I feel like there's a lot to this. So I'll start with, I can't remember exactly when, but it wasn't long after. It was a couple weeks after Alain Vigneault was fired. So when was that? Back in, was it November or December?
Yeah, around there.
And so a couple weeks later, we're hearing Tortorella, Tocchet, and I heard one thing about each of them. And I'll go for the one just to get out of the way. Had it confirmed today too. Tocchet wanted nothing to do with the Flyers. I think you told me that.
Yeah.
And then so I had it confirmed today. NRD actually got him to slide into my DMs somehow.
Oh wow.
Tricked him. And somehow I brought that up and he confirmed that. He said he's good buddies with Tocchet. Said, yeah, that's absolutely true. The other thing that the other coach that was rumored was John Tortorella. And I was told that it was said that everybody, or more specifically Dave Scott, was pushing for John Tortorella, and Fletcher didn't want him. And he was the only guy that didn't want him. And fortunately or unfortunately, he's the guy that, pulls the trigger. That's his job. It's his responsibility. If you're going to go over his head, why have a general manager? So they held off. He got him to hold off until now, I guess. And so there's a couple things here. A couple weeks ago, I think you and I even talked about it. People within the organization were kind of reiterating what Dave Scott said back at I think it was the end of season press conference. Remember when they had that weird press conference like middle of the year to talk about how bad things were and whatever? It was Dave Scott and Chuck Fletcher.
A little bit before the trade deadline.
Yeah. And they talked about, blank check and, the coaching hiring and how it's going to be, Chuck Fletcher's job and his alone, right? He was going to do that whole thing. Right. It was his hire, right? And, people from within the organization, for whatever reason, felt like they had to reiterate that. This is Chuck's hire. It's solely on him. Dave Scott's giving him the blank check. And it's like, okay, that sounds good. That sounds the same as you said a couple weeks ago. First, you hear that. I mean, fast forward a little bit to, more recently, this week, last week. We're hearing he's being influenced by people. Oh, what does that mean? Who could be influencing the general manager to pick his coach? If it's supposed to be his hire, to me, that means people are in his ear. You should pick this guy. You should pick this guy. This is the guy we want. This is the guy you should go with. To me, that's dysfunction, right? Like you can be asking people, what do you think of this guy? What do you think of that guy? Just to get, some kind of an idea of what everybody thinks, and you can form your opinion based off that. To me, it sounded like this is the guy we want and this is who you got to hire. Today, we find out they hired a firm to decide who would be the best fit for the organization and the city, which I don't know how you feel about that. I'll ask you first. How do you feel about that?
So I was shocked when I heard about it. And my main reason for shock was because I listened to that Flyers Daily podcast Jason Martinez and Bill Meltzer do.
Mm-hmm.
They talked about that a week or two ago about, I wonder if the Flyers should do something like that. And I'm wondering, maybe someone hinted that to them and they didn't want to tip it off, but like they knew that's what was going on.
Yeah, the Braves.
Supposedly the Eagles did that when they hired Nick Sirianni, and the Niners did it when they hired whatever their coach's name is. So maybe it's a little popular in football. I never really knew about it until recently. I mean, I don't like it. I think if you don't trust your general manager to make that decision, he shouldn't be your general manager. Like that. That's straight up. That's simple. I don't know. What about you?
I mean, that's a massive responsibility that falls under the general manager. You pick your general manager to construct your team and find your coach. I thought it was a little odd. I don't necessarily have an issue with it. It's just kind of like, okay, this is whatever this business is, it's their main thing, right? Is to identify the right coach for this organization or whichever organization the coach is interviewing for. So I'm like, okay, well, if you have that tool at your disposal, then I guess use it. Now, with everything considered, it doesn't look like things are very good for Chuck Fletcher right now, right? You have kind of, they're hiring guys against his will kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like he didn't want Tortorella.
Nope.
But it's almost like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know the name of this firm. I don't think was it mentioned in Ann Sanfilippo's article. Do you remember?
Not that I remember.
I don't remember seeing it either. So I don't know who knows who, or, or however that kind of stuff goes. But now it's like, okay, everybody wanted Tortorella. Chuck Fletcher didn't want Tortorella. They go with this outside firm. They pick Tortorella. You went against what your GM wanted to do. And like you said, why do you have a GM if you're not going to allow him to make the decision? So it makes Chuck look a little bit weird, especially when you have Danny Briere kind of, waiting in the wings. It looks like to me they're getting ready to phase Chuck out, but they aren't quite in the position to do it now. They haven't fired him because they need a GM, right? If they fire Chuck, they have to, I don't know if it's rushing Danny Briere. I don't know if they have a guy that would take over the reins temporarily, or they would have to hire somebody. So it's like, okay, I think Chuck's making like $2 million a year, whatever it is. Let's ride Chuck out. If things go south again this season, now they have a guy that they can kind of pin blame on, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have a fall guy. And then in however long, 6 months to a year, that should be more than enough time for Danny Briere to get up to speed. I would assume Danny Briere is named general manager by at the most this time next year. He's general manager. So to me, it looks like the writing's on the wall for Chuck, and it's kind of a shame. Not that I think it's a shame because I'm a fan of the guy, but it's just been a disaster for him since he took over here.
Yeah.
And it's not like the guy hasn't tried to get better, right? They could
Yeah,
just,
he's done more than try. He's
yeah,
made a lot
dude,
of crazy moves, to be honest with you.
dude, and it's just all gone to crap.
I
It's
I
just
so
all
I
gone so bad.
I heard today that like we're gonna start seeing more of this law firm thing kick in. They're very like, okay, what's the safest move for the organization?
Mm,
And I heard that's why Jim Montgomery wasn't even interviewed. This law firm is scared that he's like
mm.
an addict
It's a
and he might
relapse.
relapse, and then you have to fire him, and then you got to hire another coach while another coach is making money. So it's like
There's
you're
potential
hurting
risk.
yourself financially. Thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting, and sounds about right. If it, you said it's a law firm, they want to mitigate risk, and you have a plethora of candidates. It's it sucks to say, right? Because I believe in second chances. I believe that people can get better and do get better with the will to get better. And hey, the guy's an assistant coach for the last 2 years in St. Louis. Like, it's not like he's doing pretty damn good, I think, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So to not even interview him, I think, is a mistake. Having said that, I understand the business side, right? Because God forbid something does happen. It's really crappy to kind of talk about. If something does happen, now you're on the hook for that. You're still on the hook for AV for what, another 2 seasons. So
Yeah, I
let's
believe so.
let's
Yep.
let's let's say you give Montgomery, I don't know, 3 million. AV's still making 5 million for I think the next 2 years, and then you got to hire a third coach. So all of a sudden you got three coaches on the books, and only one of them's coaching your team. So I understand it. It's a shame. It sucks to say, but I get it.
Yeah, it is crazy. I have the Tampa Colorado game on over my shoulder. Last time I turned around, it was 3-1 Colorado. That quick, it's tied 3-3.
Get the hell out. Good.
Yeah,
Good, because I
crazy.
I didn't want Colorado running away. Even actually, you know what? Even if Colorado, let's say they won 5-1 or something, I Tampa Bay would make adjustments, right? And like they're just too good. You saw it with New York. New York kind of flamed out too. But once Tampa Bay figured out New York, there was just no hope for the Rangers, and I loved every second of it.
Yep, I do
So
too. Do not want to see Justin Braun and the Rangers winning.
nah, dude, I that's why I hated that trade so badly. Like I knew he was going to get traded somewhere to a contender. I'm like, that'd be cool. See him win a cup. As soon as he went to the Rangers, I'm like, oh my god, all those dreams are smashed. Can't root for the Rangers to win anything. I was so glad they lost. Everything's right again.
Yep.
And I go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I love the fans. Instantly. Oh, they weren't even supposed to be this far, but while they're doing it, they're all beating their chests and everything. Oh, we're the best team. We're gonna beat the Lightning. Yeah, I just hate New York fans. That's the main reason I hate New York, is because of the fans.
Right.
So
So
yeah.
before we hop back onto the Torts talk, I wanted to ask you, because you talk to a lot of people. Did you hear anything about Pete DeBoer?
Um, not specifically, just what came out. We had Jordan Hall on Monday night, and yeah, he hadn't really even heard anything either. He was kind of like the dark horse favorite, I guess. Because it was
Yeah.
we kept hearing Trotz, Tortorella, and even I was surprised that DeBoer was the third coach mentioned. Like I didn't hear Bruce Cassidy's name come up. Even a guy like Take. I mean, we know why. We talked about that. I didn't hear his name come up. We were waiting. I was expecting Montgomery to be the guy, right? We
I
are
was too.
figured, okay, we're waiting for St. Louis to get knocked out, and probably a couple days after, Montgomery will be named the coach. I have to find out he wasn't even interviewed. Uh, you know, I, we've talked about it. I like DeBoer, and not a lot of people do apparently, and
Mhm.
I was kind of shocked by that. Because he seems to do well. I mean, good teams want him to coach their teams, right? Having said that, I was surprised a little bit that he was being connected to the Flyers, because he had never coached a team that finished as bad as the Flyers did last year. He always kind of took over a team ready to make a cup run.
Yep.
Um, I don't think the Flyers are there yet. So, with the coaches that were available, I was a little bit surprised to see DeBoer connected as much as he was. And even though it wasn't really a substantial amount, he was still trickling behind.
Yeah, I was curious about that because I think it was Aunt San who reported that he was like the third guy out there, and like talking to people, like I didn't hear that at all. I was curious how true that actually was. Sounds like him and Tocchet are the finalists in Dallas.
Oh wow,
Yeah. The
that's a
day I
good spot.
reported, yeah, I think Tocchet lives in Vegas. He really wanted that job.
I bet.
Um the day I reported that they didn't interview Montgomery, I was trying to figure out if they interviewed Talk, and I couldn't get a straight answer. So I was
Yeah.
curious about that because we've talked about that going back since December. Like he really doesn't want to be here.
No, that's
It's
a shame
crazy.
too, man. He would have been perfect. It's the front office is a mess, man. It's so insane to say this, but I feel like Philadelphia is not an attractive place to be in
Right.
hockey right now. I mean, you got Vegas, you got, I mean, Dallas. I guess it's somewhat of a destination. It's a nice city, um, good weather, less taxes than Pennsylvania or New Jersey. All these things I think factor in. If you have to choose between the Stars and the Flyers, yeah, I know the Stars made the playoffs, but I would say they both probably have a similar chance of winning a cup next year, right? And that's not to say that, like I said, it's not to say that the Flyers are on the Stars level. It's just I don't think either team's going to win the cup next year.
Okay.
So yeah, it is crazy, but I don't think Philadelphia is the destination that it once was. Like I think it was Drager that said on, I think Anthony DeMarco put out the tweet that Darren Drager said Philadelphia was talking to a lot of coaches, but that they were not the first choice for a lot of coaches, which,
Interesting.
you could understand, but did you ever hear that being the case growing up? Right. I mean, I think I'm 10 years older. I never heard that being the case.
Right.
Right. So it's to hear that it's a little disheartening, to tell you the truth, that they have fallen a long way. This organization, this franchise.
So two things there. One, are you worried that nobody else interviewed Tortorella? Do you think that hurts us? And two, are you worried that hiring Tortorella is going to scare off any free agents?
That's interesting. So I had heard that like no other teams were really interviewing Tortorella. I saw something connected to Boston. I'm not sure if they interviewed him or not, but
Okay.
um, no. I mean, I guess I can understand why people would be concerned about that, because if he's such a good coach and such a hot commodity, why aren't other teams chomping at the bit? Like, I understand that thinking. I get it. And it makes a lot of sense. I just like the coach so much that it doesn't really concern me.
Mhm.
I guess, because I'm like, oh, okay, well, we got the guy we wanted. So I don't care. It's good that nobody else wanted him. Um, and then what was the second part there?
Are you worried that since we're hiring Tortorella, do you think any free agents are going to be scared to come here, not want to come to Philly? Like you already mentioned, it's not the most attractive spot to come to in hockey right now. Do you think this hurts anything?
I think it could. And I think also what's happening behind the scenes, I think is maybe well known too,
Mhm.
you know? So, I mean, maybe it could. Um, yeah, it could hurt the possibility of free agents coming here. Having said that, I mean, don't get me wrong. I want Johnny Gaudreau, and there are connections. Uh, would he choose Philadelphia over New Jersey or New York somewhere, or another East Coast team? I don't know. Um, I'm sure money plays a huge factor. But I've said in the past, if the Flyers are going to improve their roster, it's going to have to be through trade, right? And this was before I even got on the Johnny Gaudreau train. This was like last summer, the summer before, because it's not necessarily the destination that it used to be, right? I mean, sure, you have Jersey, you have the Shore, you're 2 hours from New York. Yeah, Philadelphia is a decent city when people aren't getting shot up and whatnot, but um, so I didn't mean that to be to come off in an ill way, but it's just the city's gotten
Yeah.
so bad.
Uh huh. Yep.
Um, So, I mean, you know, I just don't know. I don't think people will point to Kevin Hayes and be like, yeah, well, Kevin Hayes came here and whatnot, but they had to overpay for Kevin Hayes. So if you have to overpay for a player, does that mean he really wants to be here? I mean, I don't
Right.
know. That's how free agency works too. I am concerned about that. I am concerned that free agents might not want to come here, and maybe even more so now with Torts.
I hate to be that guy, but 4 days ago I heard Johnny Hockey was spotted in Stone Harbor.
Oh, get out! There you
Yeah.
go. Start it up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he's
think
partying it up.
I think he has a shore house down there. He's down there every summer, but 4 days ago someone sent me a picture. He was down there.
Hey, I don't think they got any beaches in Calgary, so
Right.
keep him down here.
So you really like Torts. Why do you think it's going to work here?
Because so here's the thing. Even if they don't win anything while he's here, a guy like Tortorella can infuse the organization and the team with work ethic, with passion. He can teach. He can teach you how to be, just how to play your ass off. I mean, like, dude, before Ron Hextall came here, players were proud to play for the Flyers,
Yep.
right? And they only and I never remember watching the Flyers and questioning their effort. That's one reason why I always loved them, because you knew that they were going to be in every game, even if they lost. I didn't care as long as they played their ass off.
Yep.
Right? It's like they could have had that one, but the other team just happened to score more goals. Think about this season. How many games did you just put on just to put on? Right? Because this is what you normally do during the winter. You put the Flyers on. You knew they weren't going to win,
Yep.
right? Like, it was not fun to watch the Flyers for the second season in a row. So what the least that I think Tortorella will do is have these guys playing their asses off again. And even if they lose a game 2-1, as long as and this is selfish, this is me, just for my own wants, as long as I enjoy watching the Flyers again, that's all I want. Right. So, but what I was getting to before, a guy like Tortorella will have a lasting effect. We talked about Werenski earlier, right? The guy had one of his best years after Tortorella. You just learn how to play the game the right way, and he's going to make you play that way.
Mhm.
You're going to have to, right? You talked about benching Scott Hartnell, or even Werenski his rookie year. It's all about how the player responds. I don't think enough is put on the players, right? Like for example, we see a lot about Travis Konechny the last day or so, right? And I know a lot of it's joking around and whatnot. I think Travis Konechny is a pretty decent. He's a good player, right? Is he the type of player that can play under John Tortorella? Is what we're going to see,
Mhm.
right? Can he do what Torts asks of him? Can he play hard every shift, right? Can he bust his ass every shift? Can he play hard in the defensive zone? Can he be in the right spots when he needs to be there? If not, and you're not scoring goals, you're not really doing a whole lot for the team. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I guess I'm looking forward to that as well. I want to see who kind of weeds themselves out,
That was
and
my next question.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I want to know who. Well, so going back to your last point, like that is one thing I completely agree with. Like he's going to teach these guys how to play good, fundamental, solid hockey. Stop leaving guys open in front of the net. Cover the half wall. Stop pinching too far in the zone. Like little stuff like that. Make sure you get your back checks in. Um, that's something I completely agree with. And even if, let's say, things are terrible this year, Chuck gets fired, they realize they need a full rebuild, and Torts doesn't last, whatever players do last, I think is really going to help them out in the long run. I'm curious what players you think are going to strive in Torts system, fail in Torts system, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think there's a lot to look forward to this coming year, whether it's good or bad. It's a make or break year for the Flyers
Yeah.
and some players, but for the organization as a whole, right? Like, if things are as bad as they were the last 2 years, there's going to be big time, like explosive changes,
Mm-hmm.
which a lot of fans want.
Yeah, I'm in that boat. And what worries me though is that a lot of us said the same thing this point last year. Like, if Konechny has a bad year, he's gone. And I honestly do think Konechny will probably be out of here, as much as it pains me to say that, because like you said, I think he's a good player. And maybe Torts does get the Konechny from, the first 3-4 years of himself in the league. Like, maybe he can get that out of him. But I don't know. It is interesting. Like, I'm curious. Like, maybe talk about Provorov and
Hmm.
Frost, Farabee, like certain guys. Do you think Torts helps, hurts?
So I'll do the positive one first. I love Farabee. I think Torts and Farabee, I think, could be a match made in heaven,
Okay.
right? Because Farabee's got a little bit of bite to his game, even though sometimes I wish he didn't. Like he fights like guys that are like
Yeah,
maybe bigger than him or
Felino.
whatever. But I think he's a pit bull and he's got skill. So like I love that. I think he could be a future captain of the Flyers. Will him and Torts butt heads? Yeah, but I think Farabee is the type of guy who we're talking about. You want to get the best out of a player, you got to you challenge him, and I'm sure he'll challenge Torts too. But yeah, I think he's going to bring the best out of Farabee. I think he's going to be a monster under Tortorella. Now, as far as Provorov, I thought Provorov was similar to Farabee. Until this season, a lot of stuff kind of came out about Provorov where I question him a little bit. Right, like the skill is there. Is the desire to play? Is their desire to be better? Is their desire to be the best? Or does he feel bad for himself?
Hmm.
Um, or is he just distracted? Right, because something wasn't right this year. And I ignored a lot of what people were saying, probably about a little bit past halfway through the year when people were talking all kinds of crap on Prover. And I didn't see it until I really started to hone in, and
Hmm.
he started to make some really bad, like blatant mistakes. Like look up, see a guy there from the other side, look down and still pass it in that same spot. It's like, come on, man, you just looked at that guy. Why? Like it made me just question, what he was doing. Is he trying to show teammates up? Like he knows maybe there's supposed to be a guy there and just sent the puck there anyway and say, there's supposed to be somebody there. There wasn't. Where was I? What was I supposed to go with the puck? I don't know.
Hmm.
You have, I think, a little bit more info on Provy, but I'm not sure if Torts can fix Provorov. I get the sense that Provorov is really annoyed, and I'm not sure Tortorella would be the right guy to fix that.
I agree. He's the one guy that I'm like really worried about that I don't think it's gonna work.
Yeah.
Um, it's tough because I mean it's so crazy. It's like he's such an enigma, but at the same time, it's like when he has a good partner, he's good. Like
Yeah.
that simple. But then like just going back to last year, like all the crap you heard about him, it's like you said, like does he want to take accountability? Does he want to be the best? Does he want to be great? Like you see him, like he lives at the skate zone. Like he has his own set of keys. Like I think once like the whole COVID thing ended, like he was pretty much living there.
Interesting.
And then like you said, like he's like, I had an okay year. I don't care what you guys say. I did fine. Like
Yeah. That's
I
like
I I
that's
would
some
have I
diva
would have
stuff.
much rather heard him say, yeah, well, I wasn't very good this year. I'm going to work my ass off and I'm going to be better next year. And that's the best I can do, or something like that, like,
Yeah, or even like generic stuff. Like, hey, things didn't go our way. You know, um, I don't. I don't know what else to say. Things didn't go our way. Instead, he had to take the route that he chose, and man, really came off a little bit bitter there.
mhm. What
So,
about Morgan Frost? One, do you think he'll be here? And two, if he is, do you
oh
think
man,
Torts can help him out?
uh, I don't know if I see Morgan Frost succeeding under Tortorella. He doesn't really seem like the Tortorella kind of player. Like I'm thinking about Columbus's centers and even New York's centerman. They didn't really have a centerman like Frost. I'm thinking New York and Who comes to mind? Broussard comes to mind.
Maybe Anisimov, but he ended up getting shipped out.
Yeah, and he ended up being a more defensive center, right? When he where did he go? Chicago and Ottawa.
Yep.
I'm thinking of Derek Stepan. Like he wasn't
Okay.
an offensive force. Like he could play the defensive end as well. In Columbus, they had a guy. It's not Brock Nelson in Columbus, right? It's man, I
Boone
can't think of
Jenner.
his name. Boone Jenner. That's it. I always get Brock Nelson and Boone Jenner mixed up for some reason. But yeah, he's a center, right?
Yep.
I could double check that. But yeah, I mean, defensively responsible centers, but can also score. Morgan Frost, we know he's got offensive talent, but let's be honest. Right now, he doesn't check either of those boxes. Not great in defensive end, and we've seen small glimpses of the offensive player he could be. Right, like we talk about him at the games. Like, oh, he's fun to watch when he just plays.
Yeah.
But I'm worried that I'm not so sure he's the type of player that Tortorella wants, especially if he's anti-Michigan. He's going to be definitely anti-Frost.
I've seen Frost pull off the Michigan twice at practice.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be his biggest fan. So you're right.
No.
He might not be here.
Yeah, I wonder if he gets traded to like a team like maybe like Florida that just likes playing end to end off the rush, or maybe like Montreal that's like not too system oriented. I think that's a team where Frost should go, not structured like Torts. I don't know.
Imagine they move up Frost in the 5th for Shane Wright. There's your two-way centerman. Nah.
That would be wild. I don't see it happening though.
No, definitely not happening.
So I'm curious. I'm not sure if we've ever talked about this, the captaincy. So all along, I thought it was going to be Coots, even though I wanted it to be Scott Lawton. I'm wondering now if this changes anything, and maybe it could be Cam Atkinson. I'm curious your thoughts.
Oh, that's interesting. I did have that thought as well, and I like Cam Atkinson. How long's he? I'm gonna put you on the spot. I'll look it up at the same time. He's got what, 4 years left on his contract, or 3?
Think 3. He had 1 more year than Jakey.
Okay, yeah, I think that's right then. Yep. Let me just double check. Sometimes I don't trust myself here. And apparently there's ads on Cap Friendly now, and I just clicked an ad. That sent me Facebook. Yeah, okay. So but anyway, back to the question. I think I would still go Couturier. That's and we won't talk about his injury stuff, I guess. But let's say he's 100% healthy. Nothing wrong with him heading into next year. I think he's my captain.
Okay.
Because I think him and Tortorella could have a relationship where, Torts could talk to Coots, and Coots is a guy that everybody respects. Because if everyone's going to hate the coach needs to be able to have that relationship, I think, with the captain, so the captain can kind of play the good guy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you're going to do the bad cop, good cop thing.
Yep.
And then the team will rally around the captain, and this is all coaching strategy, to get everybody, unified against the coach and blah blah blah, and go from there. But I'm not saying that's how it's going to be, but I think Coots could be your good cop, and to your point as well, Atkinson could be that guy. He knows what needs to change. He gave the answer that we wanted Provorov to give, right?
Too soft to play against,
right? And we need to be better. So I don't think that's outside of the realm of possibility. I would, however, I'd be curious to see what Couturier would think about that. What do you think?
I don't know. It's a great question. My worry is, so we've talked about this, and I try not to talk about it too much. From what I've heard is that the Coots' injury is more significant than the team is saying. If that is true, I don't know if you'd give him the captaincy just because he's got 6 years left, 7.
This is Couturier. I'm looking at least 6. Yeah, it might be 7.
So then, if he's hurt, probably not going to be the same player he used to be.
8 years, by the way.
So he's got set. Oh no, he has 8 left
Yeah.
because it kicks in this upcoming year. Holy
Yeah.
crap! You're right. Yup. Like I don't know. I was actually like completely fine with that signing at the time, just because I
So was
thought we got
I.
him for like $2 million cheaper per
Yeah,
year.
he's
You know,
making
like
a
I
couple
was
more
cool
than
with
Kevin
that.
Hayes.
Yeah, but like if he's not 100%, then maybe he never will be.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, what if he has to cut it short, or maybe he just like completely falls off a cliff, and then you got to strip him of the captaincy? Like, that's just a bad look.
Yeah.
I guess that's.
What do you think about not naming a captain for next season?
I never liked that.
Me neither.
I want it to be Lawton, just because I think he's kind of like the same player as Coots in the sense of like gives it his all every single shift. You never question his um, words escaping me, but like you're never questioning his drive, right? And also, he's kind of like the vocal guy in the locker room. And we just had a captain in G who was like the silent leader, and it didn't really work. So I would rather go with a vocal captain this time around and see if that changes anything.
Yeah, I'm for that. Um, again, I guess it's like the yin and yang thing. If you have a coach that's screaming at you nonstop, and then you have a vocal captain that's yelling at you nonstop,
Yeah,
not
that's true.
necessarily yelling at you. Don't get me wrong, because I like that too. Like people, I think people in general like to see they like to see that somebody cares, right? That's the
Hmm.
whole thing about the lead by example leader, that you can't always see that he cares, because you don't, he doesn't come out yelling. It's not the rah rah guy. Um, so I think it's tough, but I mean I prefer that too. I like to see, as a fan, I like to see when somebody cares. I like to see a guy getting everyone rah rah up, and let's go out and kick some ass and whatnot. So I have no problem with that.
Hmm.
So either way, I'll take the rah rah coach and the rah rah captain.
I'm cool with that. What are your predictions for the Stanley Cup Final?
Oh, I'm gonna go. Man, like I really want to say Tampa Bay, but the Avalanche are just fun,
Hmm.
and yeah, I'm gonna go Tampa Bay 7. What do you think?
Thinking Tampa in 6.
Wow, yeah, 6 is a good one too. Yeah, the way Tampa just looks, like once they get you figured out, and once Vasilevsky's on his game, it's lights out for you. And I think the goaltending is going to be the difference. What do you think?
I completely agree. I think both teams are extremely even when it comes to forwards and defense. And I actually like Kemper, but I think Vasilevsky's light years ahead of him.
Yeah, he's just a different class. Like you said, not a slight to Kemper. It's just Vasilevsky's the best goalie in the world.
Yep.
So hey, if you can't score, you can't win. And I know they have the firepower and McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog. Kadri's out for the playoffs.
They're hoping they get him back.
Okay, so that'll be interesting to see, because that's a massive loss for Colorado. And we didn't really talk about that a lot because they steamrolled. Um, who'd they just beat? Oh,
Edmonton.
the Oilers. Yeah, what'd they win? 4-0.
Hmm.
They swept them. So they did. I think they did at least 2 or 3 games of that without Kadri. And
Yeah.
then you have Tampa Bay on the other side without Braden Point the whole last series. So
Crazy.
it's yeah, and I think they got him back tonight. It's you got the game on still over there?
Yeah, I haven't seen much of the second period. They're 4 minutes into the third, but Point looked pretty good in the first.
Yeah. So he could be an X factor there. That's hell of a player to get back in the Stanley Cup, man.
I know it's crazy. I wonder if they move. They have they're lining them up Stamkos, Sorelli, Point down the center. I'm curious if they move him back first line. Stamkos goes back to wing because Stamkos has been on fire in the playoffs.
Dude, he's been so fun to watch, and I feel like I haven't really appreciated Stamkos because I've just hated the Lightning,
Mhm.
because they're just good. Why is there a hockey team in Florida that's good? And they're winning back-to-back cups. So um, I haven't really watched a lot of Stamkos, but these playoffs, like I'm just appreciating Tampa Bay because they're so good.
Yeah,
And yeah, Stamkos, man, he's not underrated. I think if he played in Philadelphia or New York or
mhm.
Toronto, we would probably talk about him a lot more than we do. but since he plays in Tampa, he's such a good player, man. Like offensively, defensively, he does it all. He scored 60 goals twice, didn't he?
I think he scored 60 in 2012.
Yep, you're right. Bang on. 2012. Yeah, scored 60 once, 40 goals, 4 other times, 51 goals the year before. I mean, this guy's 481 goals in 922 games. He's over a point per game player. 106 points this year. The most.
Isn't that his career high?
Yep, and
It's
he
nuts.
turned 32. That is nuts. Career high by 9 points when he did it back in same season 2011 2012. Wild,
Crazy.
man. And he's been hurt for a lot of these seasons here. I mean,
that's why, like, when you said like kind of goes unnoticed, I wonder if that's the biggest thing, because he doesn't play 82 games a whole lot.
Yeah, it could be very well. You're right there. 38 games last year, 57. Obviously, the season was cut short. 2016-17, only 17 games, and then a couple years before that, he played in 48 and 37. So that's what, like at least 5 seasons where he didn't play over 60 games.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah,
this is like the first cup where, like, I don't care who wins. Like, I'm rooting for the Lightning, but I wouldn't be mad if Colorado won, because I'm a big Cale Makar fan. I like Knack. They're fun to watch.
Yeah. I like that he brought up Knack attack. Imagine he wins a cup.
I hope he scores like the game winner in OT. Game 7.
See, you like chaos just as much as I do. Could you imagine?
Yeah. I've met him
all
twice.
over that.
He's a good kid. I always liked him.
I liked him too. Crappy penalties in the offensive zone, but he could forecheck like a mofo. And Flyers need that. They need a heavy body that's not afraid to go to the dirty areas, bang some people around. Maybe he takes a penalty once in a while, but rally around them and kill it off.
Yeah. So and he went on like that streak, like when he first got to Colorado, when he wasn't taking, he took like 1 penalty in like 2 months or something crazy like that.
He was playing well. Yeah, I remember tweeting about that. That seems like forever ago now.
And that's been a long year. I think I'm finally like in off-season mode. Like, I was so burnt out at the end of the regular season. It was like I'm finally like back into it, I think.
Yeah. And as it's like that point. The draft is later on in the year now. Like the draft is usually now, right? And free agency is like usually the first week of July.
Yep.
But everything's kind of pushed back a couple weeks here. So we're kind of just watching the playoffs. I kind of like, why did they do this? Because of the Olympics? Why is everything pushed back? Okay. I kind of like that it's pushed back.
I think it started a week late as well, just because they were trying to like not have such a short off season because of last year.
Oh yeah,
with the whole COVID crap.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, at least we have we could talk about Torts for another week or so, and then we'll have the NHL draft before you know it, and then free agency. We'll see if the Flyers can do anything there. You think they do anything in free agency?
I think they have to. I think I'm very happy to hear that they're interested in DeBrincat, because 40 goal scorers that young don't grow on trees,
Yeah.
Like, I would give up the 5th and then some for him. Like, I think I'd rather sign Johnny or Forsberg, just because you can use whatever assets you don't trade for DeBrincat. You could trade for another one, so then you acquire, say, a top line left wing, and then you could go acquire a defenseman with whatever assets you didn't trade. But at the same time, he's 5 years younger and a better contract. So I am hoping for something. Like, I was team rebuild for a long time, and to be honest, I still think that's what's best for this team. But it's very obvious that's not what they're doing. So I gotta embrace that we're in win now mode, and just, I have all these crazy scenarios. Maybe we trade for DeBrincat and sign Letang. Like,
yeah, I feel like he's the type of guy that would do that, to say F you to whoever didn't want to sign him and go sign with a rival. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like Letang would do that. Yeah, that'd be interesting, because I hate Letang, but if he's going to play for the Flyers and beat the Pens, then that's fine.
I'm the same way. Like, I've hated him for, I guess, 15 years now, but it's like a defenseman like that with that kind of experience and that skill level, like, I think that could do wonders for this team.
Yeah, and he's got a little bit of an attitude too, which the Flyers could use some edge. So that's fine. I'm still not over him beating up
the shit out of
team,
chemo. I knew you were gonna go there.
yeah, still not over that. I mean, that's a Punk move. Number one,
Yeah.
Crosby, Punk, and then Letang just beating up team, and then after that, 2 Punks. That's a thing too. I was in Penguins Twitter a little bit today, and they were happy that Tortorella was going to be the coach of the Flyers, and not because they were laughing at the Flyers, is because there's a rivalry between the Pittsburgh Penguins and John Tortorella.
I have that clipped in my Twitter drafts. I'm gonna tweet it out whenever that gets made official.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of maybe he brings the fire back to the Flyers Pens again, because the last couple of years hasn't been the same.
I completely
Usually
agree.
it's like, oh shit, Flyers play the Pens tonight, and your whole day is kind of built around that game. You're looking forward to, maybe you hit the gym early, or you leave work early because you got to get to the TV at night. Last couple of years, just been like, Flyers are playing the Penguins.
Yep.
It sucks. So yeah, maybe they bring a little bit of spice back to that, Tortorella.
Yep. And I miss just like that feeling of that rivalry, and just like waking up and it's like, damn, we got a playoff game tonight. Like, dude,
Yeah,
there's nothing better than that feeling.
Yeah, Wednesday night hockey, Flyers, Pens, or
Yeah.
like the friggin' playoffs. Like, I just miss being excited for the Flyers.
I'm right there with you. Well, I appreciate you for sticking it out with me tonight. I may not be as handsome as Wyatt Wilson, but thanks for hanging out with me.
Dude, I was trying to be funny, and he just didn't like laugh. I feel like it got awkward. So I'm like, all right, better move on quick here.
Yep.
Weird.
That was funny, but thank you for joining me. Where can all the subscribers check you out at?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at JimIkeHW, and you can follow the podcast account at FlyersHW. We just put a recent show out with Jordan Hall of NBC Sports Philly. Pretty good episode. We covered all the coaches involved in the Flyers coaching search, and we put emphasis on John Tortorella. So, yeah, please go check that out. And as Travis mentioned, we had the handsome Wyatt Wilson on for a guest interview. 2022 NHL prospect for the Victoria Royals. Good kid. That episode will be out tomorrow. You can check it out on the YouTube. And that's pretty much it, man.
Cool. One last question that I just thought of before I let you go.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the first Philly reporter who gets into it with Torts?
Oh, man. It might be Sam. Carchidi, right?
Yeah, me too.
Probably by default. Like, I feel like Charlie will be like respectful. I don't think he'll ask anything. But then again, like, you just never know with Torts. Like the stupidest question could set him off.
It could be a matter of who asked the first question if they have a rough game.
Yeah, and we know who's up there. Like, some of the people up there. I don't know who's gonna. Maybe it'll be Brandon. I don't know. Who knows? Everybody up there is really quiet. I hope he doesn't flip out on anybody. Maybe it'll be me. I don't know.
Possible.
I'll be sitting there like, yes, I couldn't wait to interview Tortorella, like the guy I wanted the whole time. I'll ask him a question, and he'll just cut me down. It could be me.
Selfishly, and I love the kid, I want it to be Chris.
Poor Chris.
I think that would be funny as hell.
Poor Chris, man. Could you imagine?
That would be great.
I love Chris.
I know, he's the man.
He is. Good kid.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. If you're still here, please like and subscribe. Helps the channel grow. Stay tuned for more videos, and I'll see you soon. Peace out.